Amara Johnson, a humble yet powerful Black CEO, strives to empower her community through meaningful initiatives. However, she faces relentless systemic racism and prejudice as she navigates her efforts. During a pivotal community forum, Amara is unjustly accused of corporate misconduct by Officer Matthews, who embodies entrenched biases and corruption. Despite her calm professionalism, the confrontation escalates, revealing deep-seated discrimination and stirring outrage among supporters. As tensions peak, Amara's resilience is tested, highlighting the infuriating barriers she must overcome in her fight against pervasive injustice. Amara Johnson glanced around the bustling cafe, her presence both commanding and understated. Nestled in the heart of downtown, the Cornerstone Cafe was a favorite haunt for locals seeking a respite from the city's relentless pace. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the soft hum of conversations, creating an inviting ambiance that belied the simmering tensions outside its glass doors. At 45, Amara had carved a niche for herself in the corporate world. As the CEO of Johnson Enterprises, a multinational conglomerate with interests ranging from technology to sustainable energy, her name was synonymous with innovation and integrity. Despite her wealth and influence, Amara preferred the simplicity of her modest lifestyle. She dressed in tailored yet unpretentious outfits, favoring comfort over flashiness, and drove a practical electric vehicle rather than the luxurious cars her position could afford. Today, however, her humility would be tested in a place far removed from her usual boardrooms and high-powered meetings. Amara settled into her favorite corner booth, the one by the window that offered a clear view of the street outside. She pulled out her slim laptop, the only accessory she deemed necessary for her morning routine. As she began to sift through emails and strategize for the day, her serene demeanor was a stark contrast to the chaos that often defined her professional life. The city had changed over the years. Conversations about systemic inequality and implicit bias were no longer fringe topics but central to public discourse. Despite progress, the undercurrents of prejudice still ran deep, subtly influencing interactions in everyday settings. Amara, a trailblazer in her field, had long been aware of these challenges, often finding herself at the intersection of privilege and responsibility. Today, as she worked on a proposal for a new community outreach program, a figure approached her table. It was Marcus Lee, a longtime friend and the manager of a local nonprofit organization focused on youth empowerment. His easy smile and relaxed posture contrasted sharply with the tension he carried beneath the surface. "Amara, good to see you," Marcus greeted, pulling up a chair without waiting for an invitation. "How's the world of high stakes and tight deadlines treating you?" Amara looked up, her warm brown eyes meeting his with genuine interest. "Busy as always, but managing. How about you? How's the outreach program progressing?" Marcus's smile faltered for a moment before he chuckled softly. "We're making strides, but there's always more to be done. Speaking of which, I wanted to discuss a potential partnership with Johnson Enterprises. I think there's a lot we can achieve together." Amara nodded thoughtfully. "I'd love to hear more about it. Let's set up a time to go over the details." As they delved into conversation, a group of young professionals entered the cafe, their demeanor reflecting the casual confidence typical of those new to the corporate ladder. Among them was Vanessa Thompson, a rising star in the finance sector, whose sharp intellect and ambition were matched only by her keen sense of style. She spotted Amara and Marcus and made her way over with a purposeful stride. "Amara, Marcus. Just the people I wanted to see," Vanessa exclaimed, her enthusiasm palpable. "I'm leading a panel on diversity and inclusion at the upcoming City Leaders Summit, and I believe your insights would be invaluable." Amara appreciated Vanessa's proactive approach. "I'd be honored to contribute. Let's discuss the specifics later this week." As the conversation continued, the cafe's door swung open again, admitting a figure whose presence seemed almost incongruous with the room's energy. It was Tom Reynolds, a high school teacher, known for his progressive teaching methods and commitment to fostering an inclusive environment for his students. His casual attire and approachable demeanor belied the weight of the conversation he was about to initiate. Amara glanced up from her laptop, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Tom approached with a hesitant smile, pulling up a chair across from her. "Amara, do you have a moment?" he asked, his voice carrying a mixture of respect and unease. I wanted to talk to you about something important. Amara set her laptop aside, giving Tom her full attention. Of course, Tom. What's on your mind? Tom took a deep breath, his fingers nervously tapping the edge of the table. It's about the new educational initiative you're launching. I've heard great things, but I also sense some resistance from the community. Some parents feel their concerns aren't being heard, especially those from marginalized backgrounds. Amara nodded thoughtfully. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. Building trust and ensuring that every voice is heard is crucial. What specific feedback have you received? As Tom outlined the concerns, Amara's mind raced through potential solutions. She was no stranger to navigating complex social dynamics, yet each new challenge required a tailored approach. Her commitment to humility meant that she never took her position for granted, always striving to bridge gaps and foster genuine connections. Just then, a commotion arose near the entrance. A well-dressed man in his late 30s, wearing a designer suit and exuding an air of authority, strode into the cafe. His confident gait and the way he commanded the room's attention didn't go unnoticed. He approached the counter, ordered a coffee, and then scanned the room, his eyes settling on Amara's table. Amara observed him with mild curiosity as he made his way toward her booth. The man paused briefly, assessing the scene before initiating conversation. Ms. Johnson? He inquired, extending his hand. His tone was polite, but carried an undercurrent of formality. Amara stood, her posture graceful, yet assertive. Yes, that's me. How can I help you? I'm Michael Grant, Director of Corporate Partnerships at Horizon Investments. He introduced himself, his handshake firm. I've heard about your latest project, and I'm interested in exploring potential collaboration opportunities. Amara welcomed the introduction, her humility evident despite her prominent position. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Grant. I'd be happy to discuss how we can work together. As they began to talk, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface. Michael's keen interest seemed genuine, yet there was a subtle intensity in his demeanor that hinted at ulterior motives. Meanwhile, back at her table, Marcus and Vanessa exchanged glances, sensing the unspoken tension. They knew Amara well enough to understand that she navigated such interactions with a blend of grace and strategic acumen. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the cafe floor, Amara reflected on the day's unfolding events. Each interaction was a thread in the intricate tapestry of her professional and personal life, weaving connections that could either strengthen or challenge her mission. Outside, the city thrummed with activity, unaware of the pivotal moments transpiring within the cafe's walls. The social climate was a delicate balance of progress and lingering prejudices, a landscape that Amara navigated with unwavering determination. Yet, beneath her composed exterior, she was acutely aware of the systemic challenges that persisted. Her journey was not just about personal success, but about paving the way for others, ensuring that her position of privilege was leveraged to effect meaningful change. As the cafe's lights began to dim with the approaching evening, Amara felt the weight of responsibility settle comfortably upon her shoulders. The stage was set, and the threads of destiny were intertwining in ways she had yet to fully comprehend. She glanced around the room, her mind already strategizing the next steps. The brewing conflicts, the subtle biases, and the opportunities for transformation, all were part of the intricate dance she had committed her life to orchestrating. With a deep breath, Amara returned to her laptop, her fingers poised to type the next chapter of her ongoing story. The challenges ahead were formidable, but her resolve was unshakable. Beyond the velvet rope of privilege lay the true test of her character and the legacy she intended to leave behind. The conversation in the cafe continued to flow seamlessly, with Amara Johnson deftly navigating each interaction. Yet, beneath the surface of cordial exchanges and professional discussions, the city outside buzzed with undercurrents of tension that mirrored the broader societal struggles. As the afternoon sun began its slow descent, casting elongated shadows across the cafe floor, Amara felt a subtle shift in the day's rhythm, a prelude to the challenges yet to come. After wrapping up her meeting with Michael Grant, the Director of Corporate Partnerships at Horizon Investments, Amara excused herself with a polite smile. Thank you for your time, Mr. Grant. I look forward to our collaboration. Michael nodded, his expression courteous but guarded. Likewise, Ms. Johnson, I'll have my assistant reach out to schedule our next meeting. As Amara gathered her belongings, she felt the weight of responsibility settle more heavily on her shoulders. Her role as CEO extended beyond boardroom decisions. It was a beacon for those striving for equity and inclusion within and outside her organization. With a final glance around the cafe, she stepped out into the bustling city street, the sounds of honking cars and distant sirens serving as a stark contrast to the relative calm indoors. The streets were alive with activity, the sidewalks teeming with people from all walks of life. Amara's thoughts drifted to the ongoing community outreach program she was spearheading, designed to bridge gaps between corporate entities and underprivileged neighborhoods. Today was crucial. She was scheduled to visit a local community center to discuss potential partnerships and address any concerns the residents might have. As she approached the community center, a modest building nestled between towering office complexes, Amara's steps were purposeful yet unhurried. The area was known for its vibrant culture and resilient spirit, but it also bore the scars of systemic neglect and recurring economic hardships. The community center was a lifeline, offering educational programs, vocational training, and support services to those in need. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. Children played in the adjoining playground, their laughter echoing through the halls, while adults engaged in animated conversations or focused on their respective tasks. Amara was greeted by Ms. Elena Ramirez, the center's director, a woman in her late 30s with a commanding presence and a compassionate heart. "Amara, welcome!" Elena exclaimed, extending her hand with genuine enthusiasm. "We're thrilled to have you here today." Amara returned the gesture with a graceful smile. "Thank you, Elena. I'm excited to learn more about your programs and see how we can support each other." They settled into a meeting room, a spacious area adorned with colorful artwork and informational posters. As they delved into discussions about funding, program expansion, and community feedback, Amara's dedication to fostering meaningful change became increasingly evident. Her insights were sharp, her strategies well thought out, and her commitment unwavering. However, amidst the collaborative spirit, subtle signs of underlying tensions began to surface. As the meeting progressed, a few community members entered the room, seeking Amara's attention. Among them was Mr. David Thompson, a local business owner with a reputation for being outspoken and protective of his neighborhood's interests. "Amara," David began, his tone measured yet firm. "While we appreciate Johnson Enterprises' involvement, there's a growing concern about gentrification. We've seen too many businesses shut down, only to be replaced by corporate chains. How can we ensure that your initiatives won't displace the very people we're trying to help?" Amara listened intently, her expression empathetic. "David, I understand your concerns, and they are valid. Our goal is to empower the community, not to replace it. We're committed to creating opportunities that benefit everyone, ensuring that local businesses can thrive alongside our initiatives." Before David could respond, another voice interjected. It was Karen Mitchell, a community activist known for her passionate advocacy. "With all due respect, Amara, it's not just about creating opportunities, it's about preserving our culture and ensuring that development doesn't come at the expense of our heritage. We've heard promises before, but where's the accountability?" Amara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The questions were not just about corporate responsibility. They were about deep-seated fears and historical grievances. She took a deep breath, maintaining her composure. "Karen, accountability is crucial. We propose establishing a community advisory board that includes local leaders and residents to oversee our projects. This way, your voices are integral to the decision-making process." Karen's eyes narrowed slightly, the skepticism still evident. "That's a start, but actions speak louder than words. We'll be watching closely." As the meeting continued, Amara sensed the undercurrents of distrust and apprehension. It was clear that bridging the gap between corporate interests and community needs was more complex than anticipated. Yet, she remained steadfast, determined to find common ground. Leaving the community center, Amara felt a mix of exhaustion and determination. The challenges ahead were formidable, but her resolve was unshaken. As she walked back through the vibrant streets, she couldn't help but reflect on the day's events. Each conversation, each question, was a reminder of the delicate balance she sought to maintain. a balance between progress and preservation, empowerment and respect. Later that evening, Amara attended a networking event hosted by Johnson Enterprises, a sleek venue in a modern skyscraper overlooking the city skyline. The room was filled with influential figures, investors, partners, and key stakeholders, all eager to discuss future ventures and celebrate recent successes. The air was thick with ambition and the promise of new opportunities. Amara moved through the crowd with practiced ease, engaging in conversations, offering insights, and forging connections. Her humility shone through as she listened more than she spoke, always ensuring others felt heard and valued. However, beneath her calm exterior, the day's earlier interactions weighed heavily on her mind. As the night progressed, Amara found herself at the bar, savoring a moment of solitude amidst the bustling event. She took a sip of her drink, her thoughts momentarily drifting to the community center meeting and the pressing issues that lay ahead. It was then that she noticed a familiar face entering the room, Detective Lisa Monroe, a seasoned officer known for her dedication and no-nonsense attitude. Lisa was impeccably dressed, her uniform impeccably tailored, exuding authority and confidence. She approached Amara with a respectful nod. "Amara Johnson, it's good to see you again." Amara returned the nod, her demeanor warm yet reserved. "Detective Monroe, what brings you here?" Lisa glanced around the room before leaning in slightly, her voice lowered. "I wanted to discuss a matter privately, if you have a moment." Curiosity piqued, Amara nodded and followed Lisa to a quieter corner of the venue. The dimmed lighting provided a semblance of privacy amidst the lively atmosphere. "Amara, I wanted to commend you on your work with the community center," Lisa began, her tone sincere. "I've heard about the concerns raised regarding gentrification and the steps you're taking to address them." "Thank you, Lisa. It's a complex issue, but we're committed to ensuring that our initiatives benefit the entire community," Amara replied, her voice steady. Lisa sighed, her expression thoughtful. "I know your intentions are good, but there's been some pushback from certain quarters. Some influential figures believe that your projects might inadvertently disrupt the local ecosystem." Amara felt a pang of frustration, but maintained her composure. "I understand the concerns, and that's why we're implementing measures like the Community Advisory Board to ensure transparency and accountability." Lisa nodded. "It's a step in the right direction. However, there's more. We've received reports of increased tension in the community, and there are rumors of planned protests. I wanted to see if there's anything the police department can do to assist in facilitating dialogue and ensuring peace." Amara appreciated Lisa's proactive approach. "I think fostering open communication is key. Perhaps organizing forums where residents can voice their concerns directly to our team would help alleviate some of the fears." Lisa offered a small smile. "That's a solid plan. I'll coordinate with your office to make sure everything is in place. We all want what's best for the community." As they concluded their conversation, Amara felt a sense of relief. Having allies within the system could prove invaluable in navigating the challenges ahead. She thanked Lisa and returned to the main event, her spirit slightly lifted by the encounter. However, the night was far from over. As Amara mingled with other guests, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Her instincts, honed by years of navigating corporate and social landscapes, sensed an underlying tension that was yet to be addressed. The following morning, Amara's routine began with a meeting with her executive team. The conference room was a hive of activity, with charts, reports, and strategic plans sprawled across the table. Her assistant, Rachel, briefed her on the latest developments from the previous day. "We've scheduled the first community forum for next Wednesday," Rachel reported. "It's a good sign that Detective Monroe is on board. Plus, Michael Grant from Horizon Investments is ready to provide additional funding if needed." Amara nodded, her mind already racing through the logistics. "Excellent. Let's ensure we have a robust agenda that addresses both immediate concerns and long-term goals." As the meeting progressed, the door swung open, and in walked Richard Hayes, a high-ranking executive from Horizon Investments. His presence commanded attention, and his reputation for being both formidable and influential preceded him. Richard approached the table with a confident stride, his tailored suit a testament to his status. "Amara, I wanted to discuss the upcoming partnership, Richard began, his tone businesslike. Horizon Investments is eager to support your initiatives, but we need to ensure that our involvement aligns with our corporate values and doesn't inadvertently cause friction within the community. Amara met his gaze, her response measured and respectful. Richard, your support is invaluable. We've taken careful steps to ensure that our programs are inclusive and beneficial to all community members. Your input will help us refine our approach and address any potential concerns proactively. Richard studied her for a moment before nodding. Very well, I trust your judgment, but let's remain vigilant. The last thing we want is negative publicity or backlash that could impact our other ventures. Amara appreciated the candor. Absolutely, transparency and collaboration are paramount. We'll keep you updated on all developments and ensure that our efforts are in harmony with Horizon's standards. As Richard departed, Amara felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension. The support from Horizon Investments was a significant boon, but it also brought additional scrutiny and expectations. She knew that navigating these dynamics would require unwavering dedication and strategic foresight. Later that afternoon, Amara attended a strategy session with her team, focusing on the logistics of the upcoming community forum. Charts and timelines were discussed, potential speakers identified, and outreach strategies planned. Despite the intensity of the meeting, Amara remained a pillar of calm, her leadership inspiring confidence in her team. As the day drew to a close, Amara decided to take a moment for herself. She walked through a nearby park, the serene environment offering a temporary respite from the day's pressures. The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, casting a tranquil glow over the landscape. Children played on the playground, their laughter mingling with the distant sounds of city life. Lost in thought, Amara barely noticed the figure approaching her until a firm hand touched her shoulder. She turned to find herself face to face with Officer James Carter, a local police officer known for his dedication to community relations. His uniform was impeccably clean, and his demeanor was both respectful and authoritative. "Amara Johnson," he greeted, a hint of concern in his eyes. "Do you have a moment to talk?" Amara nodded, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Of course, Officer Carter. What's on your mind?" James glanced around, ensuring they were alone. "I wanted to discuss the recent tensions in the community. We've received reports of planned protests and gatherings that could disrupt the peace. I wanted to see how we can work together to address these concerns and prevent any escalation." Amara appreciated his proactive stance. "I share your concerns, James. That's why we're organizing the community forum. It's an opportunity for residents to voice their concerns directly and for us to address them transparently. Collaboration between our teams will be crucial in ensuring a peaceful and productive dialogue." James nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good approach. I also wanted to inform you that there have been some unsettling incidents. Minor vandalism around the community center, and a few confrontations between activists and business owners. While nothing major has escalated yet, it's a sign that tensions are running high." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, and the path forward was fraught with challenges. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. We'll increase our security measures and ensure that the community center is protected. Additionally, fostering open communication will be key in diffusing these tensions." James offered a reassuring smile. "If you need any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. We're all on the same side here." As they parted ways, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that the situation was spiraling beyond mere corporate community relations. The layers of bias and prejudice were thick, obscuring the path to genuine understanding and collaboration. That evening, as Amara sat in her home office reflecting on the day's events, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Michael Grant. "Great meeting today, looking forward to our collaboration." She replied promptly, her fingers moving swiftly over the keyboard. "Thank you, Michael, excited to work together." However, her calm facade belied the turmoil brewing within. The day's interactions had exposed the fragility of the progress she sought to achieve. Prejudices, both overt and subtle, threatened to undermine her efforts, casting long shadows over her mission. Days turned into weeks as the community forum approached. Amara threw herself into preparations, ensuring every detail was meticulously planned. Invitations were sent, venues secured, and agendas crafted to address the multifaceted concerns of the community. Yet, despite her best efforts, the undercurrents of tension persisted, occasionally flaring into open conflict. One afternoon, as Amara was reviewing the final details of the forum, her assistant Rachel approached with a concerned expression. "Amara, there's been an incident at one of our partner locations. A group of protesters confronted our team, demanding that we halt all projects until their demands are met." Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing. What exactly are they demanding? "They're calling for an immediate halt to our initiatives until we can guarantee that no displacement or cultural erosion will occur. Some are advocating for more community-led projects and greater representation in our advisory boards," Rachel explained. Amara's frustration was palpable, but she masked it with professionalism. "I understand their concerns. Let's arrange a meeting with their leaders and see how we can address their demands constructively. Escalation won't solve anything." Rachel nodded. "I'll get started on that right away." Later that evening, as Amara prepared for bed, her phone rang. It was Michael Grant. "Amara, I heard about the incident today. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Michael. Thank you for checking in," she replied, her voice steady despite the day's frustrations. "We need to ensure that our partnership remains strong. If there's anything Horizon can do to support you during this time, please let me know," Michael offered. Amara appreciated the gesture. "Your support is invaluable, Michael. Let's keep the lines of communication open and work together to navigate these challenges." As she hung up, Amara couldn't help but feel the weight of the expectations placed upon her. The systemic biases and prejudices she encountered were deeply entrenched, requiring more than just corporate goodwill to dismantle. It was a battle fought on multiple fronts, within the community, within organizations, and within the broader societal framework. The night deepened, and Amara lay in bed, her thoughts a whirlwind of strategies, confrontations, and the relentless pursuit of equity. She knew that the path ahead was fraught with obstacles, but her resolve was unwavering. Each challenge was a test of her leadership, her integrity, and her commitment to fostering meaningful change. The following morning, Amara awoke with a sense of purpose. The community forum was just days away, and the anticipation was palpable. She reviewed the agenda one last time, ensuring that every segment was designed to promote open dialogue and collaborative problem-solving. As she prepared to leave for the office, Amara received a message from Vanessa Thompson. "Amara, there's been some backlash on social media regarding our recent initiatives. Some are questioning our motives and the effectiveness of our programs." Amara frowned, opening the message to read the detailed feedback. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Vanessa. Let's address these concerns head-on during the forum. Transparency is key." Vanessa nodded. "Agreed, I'll coordinate with the communications team to draft responses and ensure that our messaging is clear and consistent." With the day's tasks laid out before her, Amara set out with determination. The forum was not just an event, it was a culmination of months of effort, a pivotal moment that would determine the trajectory of her initiatives and her standing within the community. As she arrived at her office, the skyline greeted her with its familiar blend of ambition and elegance. The towering glass building was a symbol of her success, but today, it also represented the challenges she sought to overcome. Walking through the sleek corridors, Amara felt the weight of countless eyes, some admiring, others skeptical, tracking her every move. In her office, she was greeted by her team, their faces reflecting a mix of support and anxiety. They had worked tirelessly to ensure that the forum would be a beacon of progress, a space where voices could be heard and solutions could be forged. Amara took her seat, her gaze steady as she addressed her team. "We've come a long way, and today's forum is a testament to our commitment. Let's remain focused, stay composed, and remember why we're here, to create lasting change." Her words resonated, instilling a sense of purpose in her team. As the day progressed, final preparations were made, speakers confirmed, and logistical details ironed out. Despite the mounting pressure, Amara maintained her calm demeanor, embodying the resilience and strength that had become synonymous with her name. As evening approached, the venue for the community forum began to fill. Residents, local leaders, business owners, and curious onlookers gathered, their expressions ranging from hopeful to apprehensive, Amara stood at the podium, her presence commanding yet approachable, ready to address the crowd that held so much of her mission's future. She took a deep breath, her mind clear, and her heart steadfast. The journey ahead was challenging, but Amara Johnson was prepared to navigate the complexities with grace, determination, and unwavering commitment. Amara Johnson stood at the podium, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. The community forum was in full swing, with attendees filling the seats, their faces reflecting a spectrum of emotions, from hopeful optimism to skeptical apprehension. The room buzzed with conversations, the air thick with the weight of expectations and unspoken tensions. As Amara prepared to address the crowd, she took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the diverse faces before her. She could feel the collective gaze of the community members, their hopes pinned on her ability to bridge gaps and foster genuine change. This moment was pivotal, a culmination of months of effort, and the stakes were higher than ever. "Ladies and gentlemen," Amara began, her voice steady and clear, "thank you all for being here today. Your presence signifies your commitment to our community's future, and together, we can create lasting positive change." The room settled into a respectful silence as Amara continued outlining the new initiatives, the establishment of the Community Advisory Board, and the steps being taken to ensure transparency and accountability. She emphasized collaboration, inclusion, and the importance of listening to every voice in the room. However, amidst the sea of nodding heads and engaged listeners, a figure stood out: Richard Hayes, the formidable executive from Horizon Investments. His expression was inscrutable, a blend of curiosity and underlying tension. Amara noted his presence, but chose to maintain her focus on the audience. As the session progressed, Amara facilitated open discussions, encouraging residents to voice their concerns and suggestions. The atmosphere was electric, each interaction a testament to the community's resilience and desire for meaningful progress. Yet, beneath the surface, dark clouds were gathering, threatening to overshadow the day's achievements. Late in the afternoon, as the forum was drawing to a close, an unexpected commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of individuals, identifiable by their aggressive demeanor and hostile expressions, stormed into the venue. They were a mix of local agitators and outsiders, their presence a stark contrast to the otherwise harmonious gathering. Amara's eyes narrowed as she assessed the situation. Among the intruders was Officer Daniel Matthews, a local law enforcement official, known for his uncompromising stance and subtle biases. His presence added an air of authority to the already volatile mix. "Everyone, please remain calm," Amara called out, her voice firm yet composed. "Let's address any issues through dialogue." But the group was undeterred. "We demand that you shut down these so-called initiatives immediately," one of them shouted, his voice dripping with contempt. "You're just corporate puppets trying to exploit our community for your own gain." Amara's mind raced, trying to de-escalate the situation. "I understand that there are concerns, but shutting down initiatives won't solve the underlying issues. Let's discuss how we can work together to find solutions." Before she could continue, Officer Matthews stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "This meeting is over. Everyone needs to leave immediately. We'll handle any disruptions outside." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. The room's atmosphere shifted palpably as Officer Matthews and his associates began to assert control, their actions undermining the progress that had been made. The community members watched in disbelief as their carefully constructed forum was being dismantled by those who represented the very systemic biases Amara was fighting against. One of the agitators lunged toward Amara, attempting to grab her microphone. Instinctively, Amara stepped back, maintaining her composure despite the escalating chaos. "Please, let's remain respectful," she implored, her voice steady. "Violence won't lead to progress," Officer Matthews interjected, his tone authoritative. "You're disrupting the peace. This meeting is adjourned. Please leave the premises immediately." As the group advanced, tensions reached a boiling point. Amara knew that confronting Officer Matthews head-on would be futile. His position granted him undue power and influence, shielding him from accountability. Yet, she also understood that standing down would be a concession to the very prejudices she sought to dismantle. In the midst of the turmoil, a young woman named Karen Mitchell, a community activist with a reputation for her fierce advocacy, stepped forward. Her eyes met Amara's, a silent plea for unity and resistance. "Amara, we can't let them silence us," Karen declared, her voice resolute. Amara nodded, drawing strength from Karen's unwavering support. "Together, we can address these challenges. Let's not let fear dictate our actions." But the situation spiraled out of control when Officer Matthews ordered his team to detain the agitators. A struggle ensued, and amidst the chaos, one of the protesters made a desperate move, knocking over chairs and causing pandemonium. The room descended into a frenzy of shouts and movements, with community members and officials alike grappling with the unfolding crisis. Amara felt a surge of frustration and helplessness. Despite her efforts to maintain peace, the systemic forces at play seemed insurmountable. Her internal struggle was palpable. Anger simmered beneath her composed exterior, but she knew that reacting impulsively would only exacerbate the situation. As the chaos intensified, Amara realized that this was the moment that would define her mission. The stakes were no longer confined to corporate community relations. They had escalated into a direct confrontation with entrenched power structures and systemic injustices. Amara took a deep breath, her mind racing through strategies and possibilities. She couldn't let this incident derail her efforts or silence the voices she was amplifying. Drawing upon her internal strength and the support of her allies, she made a decisive choice. "Enough!" Amara's voice cut through the noise, commanding attention. "This isn't the way to address our differences. We need to find common ground, not tear each other apart." Her words, delivered with unwavering conviction, resonated with many in the room. The room began to quiet as Amara continued, "We're all here because we care about this community. Let's channel our frustrations into constructive dialogue, not destruction." Officer Matthews, sensing the shift in momentum, glared at Amara. "You think your words can stop this? These people have had enough of corporate manipulation and systemic neglect." Amara met his gaze, her eyes filled with determination. "It's not manipulation, it's collaboration, and neglect has no place in our community. We need to hold each other accountable and work towards genuine, inclusive progress." At that moment, the room's dynamics shifted. Some of the agitators hesitated, their anger momentarily subdued by Amara's impassioned plea. Karen Mitchell stepped forward, her voice echoing Amara's sentiments. "She's right. We need to stand together and fight for our rights without resorting to violence." A sense of solidarity began to emerge as more individuals in the room echoed Karen's call for unity. Officer Matthews, however, remained unmoved, his authority unyielding. "Order must be maintained," he insisted. "These disruptions are unacceptable." Amara knew that negotiations were necessary, but also understood the limitations imposed by systemic power imbalances. She glanced around the room, gauging the support from her allies and the willingness of the community members to stand up against the oppression they were facing. As the tension reached its zenith, a loud crash echoed through the venue, a symbolic culmination of the day's conflicts. The protesters' anger had manifested in a final act of defiance, shattering the fragile peace that Amara had worked so hard to cultivate. Amara felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her, the realization that the situation was teetering on the edge of irreversible consequences. The stakes were now undeniably high, and the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. In the ensuing silence, a surge of resolve washed over Amara. She knew that this was not the end, but a catalyst for the transformative change she had been striving to achieve. The systemic challenges were more entrenched than she had anticipated, but her commitment to justice and equity remained unshaken. As the room began to settle, Amara addressed the assembly one final time. "This incident highlights the urgent need for systemic reform. We can't afford to let these moments of conflict deter us. Instead, let's use them as a wake-up call to accelerate our efforts towards a more just and inclusive community." Her words hung in the air, a beacon of hope amidst the lingering chaos. The room was silent, the weight of her message sinking in. The confrontation had reached its peak, leaving Amara and her allies at a crossroads, poised to either succumb to the pressures of systemic biases or rise above them to effect meaningful change. As the crowd dispersed, leaving behind a venue marked by both conflict and resolve, Amara stood alone for a moment, absorbing the gravity of the day's events. Her internal strength had been tested, her strategies challenged, but her determination to fight against injustice had only deepened. Unbeknownst to her, the events of that day were being closely monitored by influential figures within the community and beyond. The ripple effects of this confrontation would set the stage for the most critical phase of her mission, one that would demand every ounce of her resilience and ingenuity. Amara Johnson stood tall amidst the aftermath of the community forum, the echoes of heated debates and shattered chairs still resonating in her mind. The room, once a sanctuary for constructive dialogue, now bore the scars of confrontation and frustration. As the last of the agitators were escorted out by Officer Matthews and his team, a heavy silence settled over the venue, punctuated only by the soft sobs of a few distressed attendees. Karen Mitchell approached Amara, her face a mixture of concern and determination. "Amara, that was intense," she said softly, placing a reassuring hand on Amara's shoulder. "But you handled it remarkably well." Amara offered a tired smile, her eyes scanning the room for lingering threats. "Thank you, Karen. It's moments like these that test our resolve. We need to find a way to move forward without letting fear dictate our actions." Before Karen could respond, Officer Matthews returned, his expression stern and unyielding. "Ms. Johnson, I need to speak with you outside," he announced, his tone brooking no argument. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. She glanced around, noticing a few curious and uneasy faces watching the exchange. "Officer Matthews, is everything all right?" she asked, maintaining her composure. Matthews didn't respond immediately. Instead, he motioned for her to follow him to a quieter corner of the venue. As they walked, Amara's mind raced through possible scenarios, each more concerning than the last. Once outside, Matthews turned to face her, his gaze piercing. "Ms. Johnson, we have reason to believe that your involvement with the community center has violated several local ordinances," he stated flatly. "We need to conduct a formal investigation." Amara's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "Officer Matthews, I've been transparent about our initiatives. If there are specific concerns, I'd appreciate knowing them so we can address any issues promptly." Matthews sighed, a hint of frustration evident in his posture. "It's not about transparency, Ms. Johnson, it's about compliance. There have been reports of unauthorized funding and possible conflicts of interest." Amara felt a surge of indignation but restrained herself. "These initiatives are funded through legitimate channels, and any partnerships we've formed are fully compliant with all regulations. If there's a misunderstanding, I'm more than willing to clarify." Matthews shook his head. "We'll need to take you in for questioning. This is standard procedure." Before Amara could respond, a voice called out from behind them. "Wait, Officer Matthews." Turning, they saw Richard Hayes, the high-ranking executive from Horizon Investments, striding towards them with a determined look. "Is there a problem here?" he demanded, his tone authoritative. Matthews glanced at Richard, then back at Amara. "Ms. Johnson, we're conducting an investigation into your community center's activities." Richard's eyes narrowed. "Investigation. Do you have any evidence to support these allegations?" Matthews hesitated for a moment before replying, "We have reports that need to be verified." Richard stepped closer, his presence exuding control. "Mrs. Johnson has been a valued partner for Horizon Investments. I find these accusations unfounded and potentially damaging to both your reputation and our ongoing projects." Amara sensed the tension escalating. "Mr. Hayes, I assure you that everything we've done has been above board. If there's a misunderstanding, we can resolve it without involving law enforcement." Matthews looked between them, his frustration evident. "Mr. Hayes, I appreciate your support, but these are official matters that need to be addressed through the proper channels." Richard's jaw tightened. "Officer Matthews, if you have no concrete evidence, I suggest you reconsider your approach. Arresting Ms. Johnson without cause could lead to unnecessary complications." Amara felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. The systemic biases were manifesting in overt actions, turning her mission into a personal battle against entrenched prejudices. Her internal struggle was palpable. Anger simmered beneath her calm exterior, but she knew that reacting impulsively would only fuel the injustice she faced. Karen Mitchell stepped forward, her voice steady. "Officer Matthews, Ms. Johnson has done nothing wrong. These initiatives have been beneficial to our community. If there are concerns, let's address them constructively rather than through intimidation." Matthews glanced at Karen, then back at Amara and Richard. "Ms. Mitchell, I understand your position, but my duty is to investigate any potential violations. I'll need Ms. Johnson to come with me for further questioning." Richard placed a hand on Amara's shoulder, offering silent support. "Ms. Johnson, let's not give him the satisfaction we can handle this without letting him escalate the situation further." Amara met Richard's gaze, drawing strength from his unwavering support. "Officer Matthews, if you truly believe there's an issue, I'll cooperate fully, but I expect this to be handled with the utmost professionalism and respect." Matthews sighed, clearly torn between his duty and the mounting pressure from influential figures like Richard. "Very well, Ms. Johnson, we'll proceed accordingly." As Matthews turned to leave, Karen whispered urgently, "Amara, we need to gather evidence and allies. This isn't just about you anymore, it's about standing up against systemic injustice." Amara nodded, her resolve hardening. "You're right, Karen. We can't let this go unnoticed. We'll need to document everything and reach out to our partners for support." As Matthews began to move away, Richard spoke up again, his voice low but firm. "Ms. Johnson, let's handle this internally. Let me speak with the authorities and see if we can find a more appropriate solution." Amara considered his offer, weighing the potential benefits against the need for transparency. "I appreciate your assistance, Mr. Hayes, but I believe it's best to proceed with the investigation. The community deserves honesty and accountability." Richard nodded reluctantly. "Understood, but know that Horizon Investments stands behind you. We'll support you in any way we can." With that, Matthews and his team moved forward, leaving Amara and her allies to regroup. The room was filled with a mix of supportive and sympathetic faces, reflecting the diverse reactions to the unfolding drama. Back inside the venue, Amara took a moment to compose herself. Karen approached, her expression resolute. "We need to act quickly. If this becomes a public issue, it could jeopardize everything we've worked for." Amara nodded, her mind already strategizing. "First, we need to secure all our documentation and evidence of compliance. Then, we should reach out to our legal team to prepare a response. Additionally, we need to mobilize community support to counteract any negative narratives." Karen agreed, her determination matching Amara's. "I'll start coordinating with our partners and community leaders. We'll need to present a united front." As they worked together to counter the unjust accusations, Amara felt a surge of determination. The systemic biases were now laid bare, challenging her both professionally and personally. Yet, her internal strength remained unshaken, fueling her commitment to fight against the injustice she faced. That evening, as Amara returned to her office, she found her phone buzzing incessantly with messages from allies and concerned community members. The support was overwhelming, a testament to the impact of her leadership and the genuine connection she had fostered. Amara sat down, reviewing the messages and formulating her next steps. She knew that the coming days would be critical in determining the outcome of this battle. The stakes were high, not just for her and her initiatives, but for the broader fight against systemic corruption and prejudice. Suddenly, her assistant Rachel entered the room, her face pale and eyes wide with urgency. "Amara, you need to see this." Amara rose, her heart racing as Rachel handed her a tablet. The screen displayed a live news broadcast, the headline glaring in bold letters. "Local CEO arrested amidst allegations of corporate misconduct." Amara's blood ran cold as she watched the reporter recite the accusations against her. The narrative twisted to portray her as a manipulative corporate figure, exploiting the community for personal gain. The footage showed Matthews leading a group of officers to her office, detaining her in front of startled employees and onlookers. She felt a surge of adrenaline, her mind racing to process the sudden turn of events. "This is not true," she whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around her. Karen burst into the room, her eyes filled with panic. "Amara, they're broadcasting your arrest. We need to take action immediately." Amara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Gather all our legal documents and evidence. We need to present the truth and expose the corruption within the system." As the news continued to spread, Amara's allies mobilized, using social media and community networks to counteract the false narrative. The public's reaction was swift, with many expressing outrage over the unjust treatment of a respected community leader. Supporters began organizing protests and online campaigns demanding Amara's release and an end to systemic corruption. Meanwhile, Officer Matthews found himself under intense scrutiny. Questions arose about the legitimacy of the allegations and the motivations behind the investigation. It became evident that there were deeper layers of corruption at play, with powerful interests seeking to undermine Amara's efforts and tarnish her reputation. In the midst of the turmoil, Amara found solace in her unwavering support network. Karen, Richard, and other key allies stood by her side, offering guidance and strength. Together, they strategized to expose the truth and bring accountability to those responsible for the unjust actions against her. As the days progressed, the situation intensified. Legal battles loomed on the horizon, and the pressure mounted from both public opinion and internal corporate dynamics. Amara knew that this was the pivotal moment where her leadership and resilience would be put to the ultimate test. One evening, as Amara sat in her office reviewing the latest developments, her phone rang. It was Detective Lisa Monroe, a trusted ally within the police force who had been discreetly supporting her efforts. "Amara, we need to talk," Lisa said, her voice urgent yet controlled. "There's something you need to know about Officer Matthews and his connections within the department." Amara's pulse quickened. "What is it, Lisa?" Before Lisa could respond, a loud crash echoed from outside the office, followed by shouts and the sound of breaking glass. Alarms began to blare, and the building's security system activated, locking down all exits. Amara felt a surge of panic, but quickly regained her composure. "What's happening?" Lisa's voice trembled slightly. "It's an attack. Someone is trying to disrupt our efforts and silence us." Amara stood, her mind racing. "We need to secure all our evidence and get everyone to safety. This is far from over." As they navigated the chaos, Amara realized that the stakes had escalated beyond a simple battle for truth. This was now a fight for survival against those who sought to maintain their grip on power through intimidation and violence. The room was filled with the sounds of shattered glass and panicked voices as masked assailants infiltrated the building. Amara and her team moved swiftly, guiding employees and community members to designated safe areas. The atmosphere was thick with fear and uncertainty. The once orderly environment, now a battleground of conflicting forces. In the midst of the turmoil, Amara locked eyes with Karen Mitchell, their shared determination evident despite the chaos. "We need to protect our information and ensure that the truth gets out," Amara stated firmly. Karen nodded, her resolve matching Amara's. "I'll coordinate with our IT team to secure all digital records and prepare for a public statement." As they worked together to counteract the physical threat, Amara's mind remained focused on the larger mission. The systemic corruption and biases they were up against were formidable, but her internal strength and the support of her allies fueled her determination to persevere. Suddenly, the door to her office burst open, and Officer Matthews entered, flanked by a group of armed officers. "Amara Johnson, you're under arrest for corporate misconduct and obstruction of justice," he declared, his voice cold and authoritative. Amara stood her ground, her eyes meeting Matthews with unwavering defiance. "You have no evidence, Matthews. This is a baseless attempt to silence me." Matthews sneered, advancing toward her. "Save it for the judge. You're not going anywhere." Before he could reach her, the room was flooded with light as Detective Monroe and her team burst in, taking position beside Amara. "Officer Matthews, step back," Lisa commanded, her voice firm. Matthews hesitated, the tension in the room palpable. "Monroe, what are you doing?" Lisa stood her ground, her eyes locked on Matthews. "I'm ensuring that justice is served, not manipulated by those with vested interests." A standoff ensued, the room holding its breath as the opposing forces faced off. Amara felt a surge of adrenaline, her internal strength guiding her actions. "This isn't justice, Matthews. It's corruption, plain and simple." Matthews clenched his fists, his authority wavering under Lisa's unwavering support. "You're making a mistake. Amara, don't push this further." Amara took a deep breath, her voice calm, yet resolute. "I won't back down until the truth is revealed, and those responsible for this injustice are held accountable." As the standoff reached its peak, the sound of sirens approached, the external chaos mirroring the internal battle unfolding within the room. The audience, both physical and virtual, watched in suspense, the outcome uncertain. In that critical moment, Amara knew that her next move would determine not only her fate, but the future of her mission to dismantle systemic corruption and foster genuine community progress. The room was tense, the air thick with anticipation, as all eyes remained fixed on the unfolding drama. Amara Johnson felt the weight of every eye in the room as the standoff between her and Officer Matthews reached its zenith. The air was thick with tension, the once orderly conference room now transformed into an arena of conflicting wills. Detective Lisa Monroe stood firmly beside her, while Karen Mitchell and Richard Hayes flanked her, forming a protective barrier against the unfolding chaos. Officer Matthews advanced slowly, his uniform pristine, yet his demeanor exuding an unsettling mixture of authority and malice. His eyes, once sharp and calculating, now burned with a personal vendetta that went beyond professional duty. "Amara!" Matthews called out, his voice laced with contempt. "You've been obstructing justice and manipulating community resources for your own gain. It's time to face the consequences." Amara met his gaze steadily, her internal strength unwavering despite the gravity of the situation. "Officer Matthews, there is no truth to these allegations. Your actions are driven by personal biases and corruption, not by any legitimate evidence." Matthews sneered, taking another step forward. "Don't lecture me about corruption, Ms. Johnson. I've seen firsthand how you operate. The community is just a facade for your corporate schemes." At that moment, the room's atmosphere shifted as Richard Hayes stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "Matthews, you're crossing a line. These accusations are baseless and designed to tarnish Amara's reputation. We have proof of her compliance and community efforts." Matthews turned his gaze to Richard, his expression darkening. "Proof? What proof? I have witnesses and internal reports that speak for themselves." Karen Mitchell interjected, her voice calm yet firm. "Officer Matthews, relying on hearsay and biased reports only perpetuates systemic injustice. Amara has been transparent and cooperative throughout this entire ordeal." Detective Monroe moved closer to Amara, her eyes scanning the room for support. "Matthews, you've been compromised. There's evidence linking you to the internal corruption within this department. It's time to end this charade." Matthews recoiled as Lisa's words hung in the air, the revelation sending a ripple of shock through the room. "What are you implying, Monroe?" Lisa took a deep breath, her voice steady. "We've uncovered substantial evidence that suggests your involvement in illicit activities. Matthews, your personal vendetta against Amara is a cover for your own corruption." Matthews's facade crumbled as the truth was exposed. His arrogance gave way to panic, his authority undermined by the weight of the revelations. "This isn't over, Amara. You'll regret crossing me." Amara felt a surge of vindication as Matthews retreated, his plans unraveling before her eyes. "It's over, Matthews. Your corruption has been exposed, and your actions today have only strengthened our resolve to fight against systemic injustice." The room erupted into murmurs as Matthews and his accomplices were escorted out by other officers, their power stripped away by the undeniable evidence presented by Lisa Monroe. Amara stood tall, her allies by her side, their collective strength a testament to the resilience and unity that had carried them through the darkest moments. As the dust settled, Amara addressed the assembly once more, her voice resonating with authority and hope. "Today, we've witnessed the collapse of a corrupted system that sought to silence our voices. This isn't just about me, it's about all of us standing up against injustice and demanding accountability." Karen stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. "Let this be a turning point. We must continue to fight for transparency, equity, and true community empowerment. Our work isn't done, but today, we've made a significant stride towards meaningful change." Richard Hayes nodded in agreement. "Johnson Enterprises remains committed to supporting these initiatives. We believe in the power of collaboration and the strength of our community to overcome these challenges together." Detective Monroe added, "This incident has highlighted the deep-seated issues within our system. Moving forward, we will ensure that such abuses of power are eradicated and that justice is truly served." Amara felt a profound sense of accomplishment and relief. The confrontation had tested her resilience and leadership, but she had emerged stronger, her mission clearer than ever. The support from her allies and the community reinforced her belief in the power of unity and determination. As the room began to disperse, Amara remained at the podium, reflecting on the day's events. The journey ahead was still fraught with challenges, but the foundation had been laid for a future rooted in justice and equity. She knew that the battle against systemic corruption and prejudice was far from over, but today marked a pivotal victory in that ongoing struggle. Just as Amara was about to leave the room, her phone buzzed with a new notification. She glanced at the screen to see an incoming message from an unknown number. "This isn't the end, Amara, prepare yourself." A chill ran down her spine as she read the ominous message. She turned to look around the room, sensing that the fight was far from over. The uncertainty of the future loomed large, but Amara's resolve only deepened. She knew that her mission was just beginning, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With a final glance at her allies, Amara stepped out of the conference room, the weight of the day's triumphs and threats heavy on her shoulders. The path forward was uncertain, but her determination to create lasting change burned brighter than ever.